Hey guys, tonight we're sailing into one of the oldest and sleepiest storms ever told, the endless travels of Odysseus. Imagine the air thick with salt, the sea glinting like hammered bronze, and smoke rising from the ruins of Troy. You can almost feel the sticky heat of victory turning cold. You're not a hero tonight. You're just someone who's been away from home for too long, clutching a broken oar, wondering if the gods even remember your name. You probably won't survive this journey. Statistically, almost no one does, but that's okay, because it's all ancient history now. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop your city and local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. The fires of Troy fade behind you, orange smudges against a bruised horizon. You stand at the ship's prow, the wind heavy with burnt cedar and victory songs that already sound hollow. 10 years of fighting for a stolen queen, and what's left? Broken walls, scattered helmets, and the uneasy question of whether any of it mattered. You think about Helen, about Achilles who's gone, about how glory always ends with a cleanup crew. Your men are restless, their laughter is forced. You tell them you're finally going home, though you don't yet know that home will take 10 more years to reach. You pass floating wreckage, the ghosts of Troy's navy, half sunk and creaking. The sea smells alive, thick and almost sweet, like it's remembering too. Somewhere behind the waves, Poseidon is watching. Historians still argue whether early Greek sailors truly feared Poseidon more than Zeus. But if you've ever crossed open water in a wooden boat, you know which one you'd pray to. You pull the oar and feel muscles grown hard from war tighten. The ship rocks with that steady rhythm of exhaustion, the same rhythm that's carried 1,000 men to their deaths and a handful home. There's no GPS, no map, just stars and superstition. Someone murmurs a hymn to Athena, goddess of clever plans. Another mutters something about a debt owed to the sea. You pretend not to hear the word curse. You land briefly on a nearby island, just to gather supplies. It's a place the ancients might have called Ismarus, city of the Cyclones. The locals don't exactly throw you a parade. You raid their homes, take their livestock, and set up camp, convinced it's still the age of conquest. But revenge moves faster than a hangover. Before dawn, the Cyclones rally their warriors, and you're chased back to your ships, losing 6 men from every vessel. A grim start for a homecoming. Salt stings your eyes as you row into deeper waters again, the horizon stretching like a dare. You tell yourself this is just one bad night, that the gods surely have better things to do than notice one tired mortal. But Poseidon, he's not the forgiving type. One myth claims he cursed your entire voyage, simply because you blinded his son later on. Another says it began even before that, when you boasted that human wit was greater than divine will. Historians still debate which came first, the blasphemy or the punishment. Either way, both stick. You sail past small islands where no birds sing, the kind of places where even the wind sounds like it's whispering a warning. One of your crew insists he saw a mermaid. You tell him it was just driftwood, but part of you wonders. Ancient sailors believed the sea was full of listening spirits, minor deities and lost souls that could tangle your course if you forgot your manners. You mumble a small apology to the waves, just in case. At night, you lie on deck under a moon like a chipped shield. The stars seem to blink slower, as if watching your progress. You trace constellations with your finger, the hunter, the swan, the dolphin, and feel absurdly small beneath them. Somewhere in the black distance is Ithaca, your island, your olive trees, your clever wife Penelope weaving and unweaving her days. You whisper her name like a superstition, as if it might reach her through all that dark salt and time. By the 5th dawn, the sea turns glassy and strange. The wind drops, the oars dip soundlessly into the still water, and the quiet grows thick enough to make your skin crawl. This isn't peace, it's the ocean holding its breath. Then thunder cracks. Out of nowhere, a storm hits with theatrical fury. You grip the mast as the sky folds in half. Lightning slashes across the waves, illuminating faces wide with fear. It's as if Zeus himself just flipped the lights on you for fun. For hours, your ship fights the surge. Waves lift and drop you like a toy. You pray, you curse. You promise every god you'll build a temple if they just let you see land again. Somewhere behind the spray, someone laughs. Maybe the wind, maybe the sea. Or maybe, if you believe in such things, Poseidon himself. By the time the storm passes, you're not sure how many ships remain. You count torches on the dark horizon 3, 4, the rest are gone, swallowed by the god who loves his grudges. You sit on the deck, soaked, half mad with fatigue, realizing that the war may be over, but the real battle has only just begun. Your men slump around you, silent. You pass around a skin of wine, the same kind the Greeks once used for sacrifices. You take a sip, and it burns like memory. One of the younger sailors asks when you'll see home. You give him your best captain smile, the one that hides the truth. Soon you lie. The hardest part's behind us. Of course, you're wrong. You watch dawn arrive, thin and pink and indifferent. The sea looks calm again, but you've learned better than to trust appearances. Somewhere below, Poseidon's trident scratches at the floor of the ocean, impatient for round 2. You roll your shoulders, tighten the ropes, and give the order to sail east, toward whatever comes next. For now, the gods are quiet, but quiet, you've learned, is never peace. It's just a pause before the next test. The sea carries you gently at first, almost kindly, as if Poseidon himself has grown tired of punishing you. The air smells clean again, full of salt and sun, and for a brief, fragile stretch of hours, you let yourself believe that perhaps this time, it will be simple. Perhaps you'll glide straight to Ithaca, step ashore, and finally sleep in your own bed. You even hum a little tune under your breath, a lazy sailor's song from years ago. The sail flaps softly above you, stitched from Calypso's woven cloth. The wood creaks, steady but uncertain. It's not much of a ship, but it's yours. Still, peace never lasts long when the gods are watching. Up on Olympus, they're already talking. Hermes, newly returned, recounts his errand with amusement. Apollo laughs. Hera rolls her eyes. But Athena sits apart, quiet, her hand resting under her chin. He's endured enough, she says softly. Let him reach home. Poseidon, of course, is not at this divine coffee table. He's out doing what sea gods do, riding waves, shattering reefs, chasing whispers across the depths. When he finally returns and hears that Odysseus is once again afloat, his eyes flash like stormlight. So, he growls, while I turn my back for one moment, they free the man who blinded my son? Hermes tries to joke. Well, technically he's just sailing, not celebrating. But one glare from the god of the sea shuts him up, and thus your peace ends. You don't notice it at first. The breeze falters. The water darkens a little, no longer blue, but an oily gray. You pull your sail tighter, frown, and glance around. Then the first gust hits. The mast groans, the sail whips violently, and the sea tilts beneath you like it's trying to flip you off its surface. You grip the ropes, swearing under your breath. You can almost hear Calypso's voice echoing faintly. A fair wind for a while. A while, it seems, is over. The storm builds with impossible speed. Waves rear up higher than cliffs, collapsing in white fury. Thunder cracks like a whip across the horizon. You shout into the wind, not for help but for defiance. It's the only thing you have left. Is this it again? You yell. Another test? Another punishment? Haven't you run out yet? If Poseidon hears you, he answers with laughter, thunder rolling across the waves like the deep chuckle of an old predator. Lightning blinds you. The mast snaps in two. The sail rips away into the void. You cling to the planks, every bone screaming. The raft tilts, breaks, reforms in pieces. You cling harder, coughing brine. Pray not to whatever god is angry, but to the few who still might care. Athena hears. Hold fast. Her voice whispers through the wind. It's not a command. It's a quiet encouragement, steady and calm amid chaos. Hold fast, Odysseus. You are almost there. Almost. You cling to that word the way a drowning man clings to driftwood. Then the waves shift. They don't flatten, but their rage grows rhythmic, predictable. Between the swells, you glimpse something new, land. A faint green line beneath gray sky. You paddle with your bare hands, one desperate stroke at a time. Every muscle burns. Every breath tastes of salt and blood. The waves fight you to the last moment, smashing you against hidden rocks, dragging you back, spitting you forward again. Finally, one massive surge hurls you onto sand. You tumble, gasp, crawl. You drag yourself up the beach until the next wave can't reach you. Then, for a long time, you simply lie there, face down, trembling, too tired even to think. The storm rolls away behind you. The rain thins to mist. The world goes quiet. When you finally lift your head, you see trees, tall, green, whispering softly. A river trickles nearby. The sand beneath your cheek feels warm. You have made it somewhere. You don't know where. You stagger to your feet, stumble inland, and collapse again under a grove of olive trees. The leaves shimmer faintly in the fading light. It feels safe here, different from Calypso's paradise, but kind in its own mortal way. Sleep takes you before you can wonder further. When you wake, the sun is low, gold spilling through the trees. The air smells of flowers and seaweed. Voices drift nearby, soft, musical laughter. You blink, rise slowly, and peek through the branches. Down by the river, a group of young women are washing clothes in the shallows, their laughter echoing over the water. One of them, taller than the rest, holds herself differently, graceful, assured, but curious. Her hair catches the light, like spun copper. Nausicaa. You don't know her name yet, but you will. She tosses a ball, misses the catch, and it rolls toward you. The others chase it, screaming and giggling, until one spots you, muddy, wild-haired, barely clothed, and looking more like a ghost than a man. They freeze. You raise a hand, not in threat, but greeting, though you probably look terrifying. Please, you rasp. Don't run. I mean no harm. Most scatter instantly, shrieking toward the trees. Only Nausicaa remains. Her eyes study you, not with fear, but with cautious wonder. Who are you? She asks. You bow awkwardly. A shipwrecked man, you say. Nothing more. She glances at your torn clothes, your salt-crusted skin. Then she says something that surprises you. You look like a god, though not one I know. You almost laugh. Trust me, I've met enough gods to know I'm not one. She smiles faintly, then gestures toward the river. Washington, I'll bring you cloth. When you're ready, we'll go to my father's hall. He'll help you. And so you do, washing away the salt, the storms, the long shadow of Calypso's island. For the first time in years, you stand clean, mortal, human again, as you follow her toward the shining walls of Scyria, the city of the Phaeacians. You feel something strange, something you haven't felt since Troy. Hope. The air thickens with salt and dread as your ship drifts farther from familiar waters. You can almost feel eyes beneath the waves, watching, judging. You don't need to be told who it is. Poseidon, lord of earthquakes and seas. The god who can tilt a ship with a shrug. He's been waiting for this. The gods, after all, don't forget insults, and you, clever mortal that you are, once bragged that no divine hand guided your triumph at Troy. A rookie mistake. The men sleep uneasily on the deck, faces crusted with dried salt and regret. Their dreams are restless, full of foam and thunder. You stay awake, staring into the black shimmer of the sea. The stars are your only map, but even they seem to shift when you look too long. Somewhere out there, the horizon hides your home. It should be a straight line, northwest to Ithaca, but the sea bends your sense of direction like a mirror. Maybe that's Poseidon's first trick, confusion. When dawn comes, it's a dull gray streak over the water, like someone half-heartedly painting the sky. Your ships rock through lazy swells, the kind that lull you into thinking the worst is over. That's when the wind turns. It starts as a hiss, then grows into a roar that shreds your sails and knocks your oars from their locks. The sky curdles into bruised clouds. Hold fast, you shout, gripping the mast. Thunder cracks so close it vibrates in your teeth. The sea rises into walls that crash sideways, slapping you with cold fury. You taste metal and maybe fear. The men scream Poseidon's name, which, honestly, seems counterproductive. You try shouting over the storm, promising to build altars, to spill fine wine, to never again underestimate divine egos. But the wind steals your voice. A monstrous wave lifts the ship as if to inspect it, then drops it hard. For a second you see nothing but white foam and open sky. And then silence. The storm passes as suddenly as it came. The waves flatten, the clouds dissolve, and you find yourself panting in the aftermath. The ship groans like it's aged a decade. One mast is cracked, half your provisions are gone, and you can't see the other ships at all. You look down into the water, dark, endless, somehow smug, and mutter, "Fine, you win this round." Poseidon doesn't answer, but the next swell seems to chuckle. You drift for days, letting the wind choose your path. Hunger gnaws at the crew. They chew on dried figs, lick salt from their fingers, and glare at you like you're personally responsible for the ocean. Which, to be fair, you kind of are. Finally, an island appears on the horizon, small, green, and oddly peaceful. You order the men to land, hoping for fresh water and maybe a little forgiveness. The place is quiet, almost too quiet. Trees hang low with fruit, and streams murmur lazily through the grass. It feels like a trap designed by someone who knows how desperate sailors think. You walk inland with a few men, careful not to disturb whatever divine homeowner might own the property. Keep your sword sheathed, you warn, though you don't entirely believe that will help. Ancient sailors often believed each island was ruled by a minor god, some local spirit with specific allergies, like mortals stealing their apples or disrespecting their goats. Historians still argue whether these beliefs were superstition or simply survival instincts dressed as religion. Either way, you've learned the rule. Assume you're trespassing. You find a small shrine by a spring, its carvings worn smooth by time. Someone, maybe long ago, maybe yesterday, left an offering of bread and honey. You add a few drops of wine, whisper something polite, and hope Poseidon's relatives aren't listening. The air feels lighter for a moment. Maybe it worked. As you fill your water skins, one of the men finds a strange shell near the shore, spiraled, deep blue, almost alive with color. He presses it to his ear, smiling. "You can hear the sea inside," he says. You nod, though you notice the tide rising unnaturally fast. Within minutes, the calm lagoon starts to churn. The men back away as a wave, taller than the trees, rears up from nowhere and crashes over the beach. You barely manage to scramble to safety. The wave retreats, leaving behind shattered wood and scattered shells. The message is clear: you're not welcome. By nightfall, you're back on the ship, sails patched, morale low. The men whisper stories about sea monsters, half fish, half serpent, full drama. You tell them it's all nonsense, but your eyes keep drifting toward the water's edge. In the dark, the sea glows faintly green, as if something below is breathing light. You don't mention it. You just order them to row. The next few nights blur together. You pass islands that seem to vanish when you blink. Once, you think you see a massive shadow moving beneath the surface. Too slow for a whale, too deliberate for a current. You tell yourself it's fatigue, but you grip your sword anyway. There's one tiny comfort: the stars. Every night you trace the same constellations: Orion, Cassiopeia, the Great Bear, and use them to keep your bearings. The ancients knew this trick well. Greek sailors called these heavenly guides, believing each was a hero turned immortal. Quirky tidbit: some believed Orion still hunted giant fish across the night sky, which might explain why you keep dreaming of something enormous stalking your ship. You start speaking softly to the sea at night, as if reasoning with it. You've made your point. You whisper. You're stronger, smarter. Can we just call it even? The ocean replies with a low, rolling sigh that could mean anything. Your men notice your silence and mistake it for confidence. Captain knows what he's doing. One says. You don't correct him. Leadership, you've learned, is just pretending to be sure until it's true, or until it doesn't matter anymore. Finally, after what feels like forever, land again. The coast ahead gleams white under moonlight, peaceful and inviting. You don't trust it, but you can't keep floating forever. You give the order, drop anchor. The ship creaks, ropes tighten, and the men collapse where they stand. You stay awake, listening to the waves slap the hull in that slow, teasing rhythm. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rumbles, not near, not far. Just a reminder that the god of seas still hasn't finished with you. You close your eyes, whisper one more apology into the darkness, and let yourself drift into uneasy sleep. The last thing you hear is the sea whispering your name, soft and slow, like it's practicing the sound of your surrender. You walk beside Nausicaa through winding groves and stone paths slick with dew. The city ahead glows faintly in the morning light, a cluster of silver towers and wide courtyards, built where land and sea kiss gently. The air hums with calm industry, the tap of hammers, the chatter of merchants, the rush of oars sliding into harbor water. You realize, with quiet astonishment, that the people of Scheria live almost like gods themselves. Nausicaa keeps her gaze ahead, but her tone softens as she speaks. My father, King Alcinous, welcomes strangers. My mother, Queen Arete, is wiser than any oracle. Speak well, and they'll give you shelter. You nod, still wary of mortal hospitality. It has a tendency to vanish the moment someone mentions your name, but Nausicaa's calm confidence steadies you. She stops before the outer wall, looks up at it, then turns to you. Go to the palace alone, she says. If the people see me walking beside a strange man, tongues will wag. But don't worry, they'll treat you kindly. My mother will know what to do. You bow in gratitude, watching her disappear down a side street with her attendants. Then, pulling the cloak she gave you tighter around your shoulders, you step through the gate. The streets are broad, paved smooth as marble. Everything shines, not with ostentation, but with impossible craftsmanship. Doors inlaid with bronze, columns carved like tree trunks, fountains whispering over white stone. Even the children's laughter sounds refined, as though the air itself refuses to carry noise that isn't pleasant. You approach the palace. Its gates are open, guarded by dogs carved of gold and silver that glimmer in the light, and when you pass between them, they move. Just slightly. Their eyes follow you. You feel a pulse of recognition. Hephaestus's work, surely. The kind of detail only a divine craftsman could bother with. Inside, the halls stretch endlessly, lined with tapestries that shimmer with moving scenes, ships gliding across real waves, stars that actually blink. The smell of roasted meat drifts from somewhere deeper in, mingling with incense and honey. You hesitate at the threshold of the main hall. There, on a high dais, sit King Alcinous and Queen Arete. They're not intimidating, just quietly radiant, the way a sunrise is. Dozens of nobles lounge nearby, cups in hand, their laughter light but attentive, as though waiting for the next good story. You do what Athena whispered to you in a dream as you walked. You walk straight past everyone else and kneel before the queen. You clasp her knees, an ancient sign of supplication, and say, Queen Arete, daughter of Rexener, I beg you for mercy. I am a wanderer, broken by storms and gods. Grant me safe passage home. The hall falls utterly silent. The nobles stare. The king blinks in surprise. The queen, however, studies you calmly, her eyes sharp and soft at once. Then she nods to her husband. Alcinous, she says, a man who can speak so wisely, even in misery, deserves our hospitality. The king's face breaks into a warm grin. You've come to the right place, stranger. Sit, eat, and rest. The sea may toss a man, but we Phaeacians never turn him away. Servants hurry forward, bringing cushions, washing your hands, setting food before you, steaming bread, roasted fish, figs, and dark wine. You eat slowly, grateful but dazed. The warmth spreads through you like returning life. Only after your hunger softens does the king ask gently, Tell us, friend, where do you come from? What gods have wronged you so? You smile faintly. That, my lord, is a long story, and I fear if I begin now, your wine will turn to vinegar before I finish. Laughter ripples through the hall. The king chuckles. Then you'll tell it tomorrow, when we feast properly. For now, rest. My daughter found you. Did she not? You pause. She did, and she was gracious. She has good judgment, the queen says softly, though there's a glimmer of something knowing in her gaze. Later, when the crowd disperses, You're led to a chamber where golden lamps flicker like tiny stars. The bed is soft, so soft that your body, accustomed to rocks and planks, barely knows how to sink into it. For the first time since Troy, you sleep without salt in your mouth or fear in your chest. The next evening, the king summons the people for a grand banquet. Musicians play lyres that sound like liquid light. Dancers move like ripples across water. You sit among them, a stranger who feels, oddly, at peace. Then comes the storyteller, a blind bard led by the hand. His name is Demodocus, and the moment he opens his mouth, the hall goes silent. He sings of the Trojan War, of the wooden horse, of cunning plans and the fall of proud kings. And as the words flow, the air in your lungs turns heavy. He sings of you, though he does not know it, and the hall glows with the light of a memory you can't bear to watch. Your eyes sting. You turn away, hiding your face in your cloak. The queen notices and quietly signals the bard to stop. The music fades. The king frowns softly, then says, "Stranger, your tears tell me you have lived what this man only sings. Tell us truly, who are you?" The question lands like thunder in the quiet hall. You straighten slowly. The time for disguise is over. "I am Odysseus," you say, voice low but steady. "King of Ithaca, destroyer of Troy, the man of many sorrows." A murmur runs through the crowd. The bard bows deeply. The king leans forward, eyes wide with respect and curiosity. "Odysseus," he says, almost reverently. "Then by all means, tell your story. Every shipwreck, every god's curse, every wonder and every sin. Let us hear the path that brought you to our shore." You look around at their faces, open, eager, kind. You take a breath, and for the first time since the war, you begin to tell it all. Morning arrives wrapped in silver mist, the kind that makes the world feel half-dreamed. You rise before the others, the ship rocking gently beneath your feet. The storm bruises are gone from the sky, and for a moment, it almost looks like mercy. The men stir one by one, blinking at the soft dawn and muttering about breakfast. You promise them fresh fruit, maybe a few goats if the island cooperates. They cheer weakly. Morale is something you ration now, like wine. As your ship slides toward the beach, the air changes, warmer, sweeter, laced with something floral and strange. It makes you lightheaded, dizzy almost. You think it's fatigue until you notice your crew smiling for the first time in days. The island ahead is impossibly lush, the trees sagging under golden fruit, the shore glowing like powdered sunlight. You step onto the sand. It feels warm, too warm, like it's alive. There are figures waiting, tall, slow-moving people dressed in pale linen, their faces open and gentle. They greet you not with weapons, but with laughter. One of them offers you a handful of strange pods, pale green, shaped like tiny stars. You hesitate, but your men? They eat without question. Within minutes, they're sprawled in the sand, dreamy-eyed, murmuring about how they've never felt so peaceful. One starts humming a lullaby from Ithaca, then forgets the words halfway through. Another says maybe you don't have to go home at all. Maybe home is overrated. You recognize it now. The lotus eaters. Every traveler's cautionary tale. Their food doesn't kill, it numbs. It unties ambition from memory until you forget you ever had either. Historians still argue whether the myth came from sailors stumbling upon narcotic plants in North Africa, or if it was just a poetic warning about losing purpose after war. But you can see its truth in front of you. Men who fought for 10 years, now undone by a flower. You try to rouse them, shaking shoulders, shouting names. They just smile at you like children who've discovered eternal vacation. "Captain," one murmurs, "why keep rowing? The sea doesn't want us. The gods don't care. Stay a while." For a moment, you almost believe him. The breeze is soft, the waves quiet. The island hums with lazy perfection. You could lie here, let your mind empty, let the world drift by. No oaths, no storms, no Poseidon waiting to break your ship again. Just rest. But then Penelope. The image surfaces uninvited, her weaving by the lamplight, the loom clicking like a heartbeat, her eyes patient and tired. You remember Telemachus, the son you left as a baby. You remember the promise you made to return, and how much it costs to break a promise to yourself. You bite down hard on the inside of your cheek, just enough to taste iron. It grounds you. Back to the ships. You command, but no one moves. You can't carry them all. So you do what any hero/exhausted commander would do. You drag them. You hoist limp, smiling bodies across your shoulders, one by one, muttering curses Poseidon himself would applaud. They laugh even as you haul them through the sand. It's absurd, undignified, and in a way tender. These men who followed you through spears and fire, now giggling like toddlers. Once you have them aboard, you lock the ships tight and order the sails raised immediately. Some of them weep as the island recedes, their fingers reaching for the drifting petals that cling to the waves. You don't look back. As the shore disappears, the scent of lotus fades, and the men begin to stir, confused, ashamed. One of them asks if they dreamed it. You say yes, because that's easier. You tell them dreams can be dangerous things. The sea agrees, slapping the hull as if in punctuation. You pass the pod you kept in your pocket, a single lotus, pale as moonlight. You hold it up to the sun. It glows faintly, almost beautiful. You toss it into the water, watching it float until it sinks, swallowed by the current. You think about the nature of forgetting. Maybe that's the real curse, not storms or monsters. To forget who you are, what you've endured, what you're returning to. That's the slow death heroes never write songs about. The day grows hotter, the horizon shimmers. The crew sleeps in uneasy silence, some whispering apologies to gods they can't name. You stay at the helm, watching for the next test. Because you know the rhythm by now. Peace, temptation, punishment repeat. The sea has a way of teaching lessons no one asked for. A seabird circles overhead, calling once before vanishing. A good omen, you tell yourself. The men don't ask why you're gripping the tiller so hard. By nightfall, the island is gone. Only the smell of sweet fruit lingers in your clothes, faint but insistent. You imagine Poseidon somewhere in the deep, grinning, saying, "Not bad, mortal. Let's see how you handle the next one." The stars come out again, that same indifferent audience. You lie back on the deck, exhaustion pooling in your bones. The ship creaks like an old friend. You wonder if the gods ever get tired of their own drama. Probably not. Sleep comes slow. You dream of Ithaca, but it's blurry, Penelope's face half hidden behind threads, your home a mirage on shifting waves. You wake before dawn, heart racing, the scent of lotus still in your nose. You remind yourself out loud, "I'm going home." The sea, sly and endless, murmurs something that sounds a lot like laughter. The next morning, the sea looks harmless again, flat blue, calm as a painting. You should know better by now. The men are sluggish, still half haunted by the memory of the lotus, but their bellies rumble louder than their regrets. You point the ship toward a distant smear of land on the horizon, just another island, another chance to restock and, hopefully, not get hexed, eaten, or lulled into existential apathy. As the island draws near, its cliffs rise jagged and gray, like the ribs of some sleeping god. The air smells faintly of smoke and livestock. "We'll find supplies here," you tell the crew. They nod, but unease curls between their words. Even the birds are silent as you beach the ship. You take 12 men ashore. The grass is long and whispering, the paths rough with broken shells. Inland, you find a massive cave, its mouth wide as a temple gate, ringed with bones that make your instincts itch. Goats bleat softly from within. You should turn back. You know you should. But curiosity has always been your favorite form of self-sabotage. Inside, it's cool and dim. The walls glitter faintly with moisture, and the air smells of milk, hay, and something far less pleasant. You find racks of cheese, baskets of curd, and best of all, an entire flock of plump sheep. "We'll take what we need and leave a gift," one man suggests nervously. That would be the respectful thing, the mythological thing. But your pride is louder. "We'll wait," you decide. "Let's meet the owner. Maybe he'll share his bounty." He does not. The sound reaches you first, a rhythmic thump, like distant thunder made of footsteps. Then a shadow darkens the cave mouth. The creature who enters has a man's torso, a giant's height, and a single, enormous eye glinting in the center of his forehead. Polyphemus the Cyclops, son of Poseidon himself. You're face to face with the reason your sea troubles are about to get worse. He drops a bundle of firewood that shakes the ground, sniffs the air, and rumbles. Who are you? His voice is deep enough to rattle your ribs. You try diplomacy, introducing yourself as a wanderer, a soldier of Troy, a humble guest seeking hospitality. In Greece, hospitality is sacred. Xenia, the divine law of kindness to strangers. Historians still debate whether the Cyclopes ignored that law out of savagery or simple isolation, but either way, Polyphemus doesn't seem the hospitable type. He just frowns. Guests. My guests usually bleat. And before you can blink, he snatches up 2 of your men, and, well, let's just say dinner begins early. You shout, you brandish your sword, but the creature only laughs. The rest of you scramble to the far wall, trembling. There's no escape, the entrance blocked by a boulder too heavy for a dozen men to move. That night, while the Cyclops snores like an earthquake, you think, you've been in worse corners before. Maybe. We can't fight him. You whisper. We'll trick him. You find a long, sharp staff of olive wood, hard and smooth. You heat the tip in the fire until it glows red. The plan begins to form, the kind of mad idea Athena herself might smirk at. When Polyphemus wakes, you offer him a skin of your best wine. A gift, you say, masking your shaking hands. The Cyclops drinks deeply, smacks his lips, and grins. More, he demands, and you pour until his eyelid droops and his words slur. What's your name, little morsel? Call me nobody, you say. It feels ridiculous, but you can almost hear Athena chuckle in approval. Moments later, he collapses, snoring again. You and your men seize the burning stake and drive it into his single, staring eye. The cave fills with the sound of his roar, something between a bellow and a storm. You can smell burning flesh, hear the crunch of the staff sinking deep. He thrashes, flinging stones, and calls to his fellow Cyclopes outside for help. What's wrong, brother? They shout. Nobody's hurting me, he howls. Well, if nobody's hurting you, stop shouting. They yell back, irritated, and wander away. It's the kind of wordplay that'll still be funny centuries later, though you don't laugh then. At dawn, you tie yourselves beneath the bellies of the sheep. When the blinded giant rolls away the boulder to let his flock out, he feels their backs, but not their undersides. You slip out into the sunlight, the smell of freedom sharper than the grass. The sea sparkles ahead, indifferent as ever. Once aboard your ship, you can't resist a final flourish. You cup your hands and shout back toward the shore. If anyone asks who blinded you, tell them it was Odysseus, king of Ithaca. It's satisfying for about 5 seconds. Then Polyphemus roars your name to the heavens, calling on his father Poseidon for vengeance. The wind shifts immediately, and the sea darkens, like a curtain closing. You feel it in your bones, the curse settling in. The men groan. One mutters that you should have kept your mouth shut. You agree, silently. But pride is a hard habit to quit. That night, the waves rise again. You try not to imagine a giant's hand stirring them from below. Somewhere far above, the stars blink like disapproving witnesses. You wonder if Athena's still on your side, or if even she's rolling her eyes by now. As the ship rocks and groans, you lie awake, the taste of smoke still in your throat. You've outwitted a monster, but you've also earned a god's eternal grudge. Small victories, big consequences, the classic Odysseus combo. You mutter to yourself, half prayer, half sarcasm. Nobody warned me it'd be this hard. The sea, ever literal, answers with a slap against the hull. Your voice begins low and calm, though the memories rush like floodwater. The hall listens, silent except for the crackle of the torches. You tell them first of Troy, of the long years, the endless tricks of gods and men. You speak not of glory, but of exhaustion, the heavy armor, the cries in the night, the emptiness that victory leaves behind. Then you tell them how it began, the long road home. You describe Ismarus, city of the Cyclones, where your men, drunk on conquest, ignored your warnings and plundered until the locals struck back. You tell of the punishment that came swiftly, how you fought your way out, leaving 6 men dead from each ship. The listeners murmur softly. The king's face grows grave. You continue, relentless. You describe the land of the lotus eaters, where flowers made men forget home. You recall how you dragged your crew back to the ships by force, how they wept like children when you tied them to the benches, so they wouldn't run back to that sweet oblivion. You pause for breath, sip wine, then continue. Next, the island of the Cyclopes. You describe the fertile valleys, the flocks of sheep, the caves filled with cheese and milk. Your men begged to steal and run, but curiosity, as ever, guided your steps. You tell of Polyphemus, the one-eyed giant, son of Poseidon, how he trapped you, devoured your men, and laughed as bones cracked under his teeth. The hall trembles with unease as you recount the plan, the sharpened stake, the name nobody, the fire, the scream, the blinding light. You speak slowly, eyes distant. He howled, and the mountain howled with him. You say, and I thought the sea itself would rise to avenge his pain. You tell them how you escape beneath the bellies of sheep, clinging to their wool as the blind giant felt along their backs. You speak of the dawn, the taste of salt and terror, and your reckless pride as you shouted your name back to him across the waves. I am Odysseus, sacker of cities. Tell Poseidon who blinded you. The king shakes his head. The queen sighs, eyes soft with pity. Pride is the heaviest burden, she murmurs. You nod quietly, and Poseidon never forgot. You describe the storm that followed, the waves that reared like living beasts, the thunder that roared until the world turned white. You tell of Aeolus, the windkeeper, who gave you a leather bag tied with silver thread, holding every breeze of the world except the one you needed. For 9 days you sailed homeward, so close that you could see the smoke rising from Ithaca's hills. But your men, greedy and foolish, thought the bag held gold. You close your eyes as you speak of it. They opened it while I slept, you say softly, and the winds escaped. All of them. The hall listens, breath held, as you describe the chaos, the storm that hurled you back across the sea, the ship spinning, the horizon vanishing. Aeolus refused to help again. The gods hate you, he said. I dare not anger them further. You speak next of the Laestrygonians, giants who hurled boulders like pebbles, crushing ships in the harbor. Of 12 ships, 1 survived your own. The audience murmurs prayers, shaking their heads. Then you tell of Circe, the witch of Aea, the island wrapped in forest song. You describe her golden hall, the smell of herbs and smoke, the sound of her voice that made wolves and lions kneel at her feet. You tell of how your men entered her hall and never returned, how she turned them to swine with a flick of her wand. But Hermes met me, you say, and gave me a charm of moly root, white as milk, black at the tip, to shield me from her spell. They listen as you recount how you faced her unflinching, her spell bouncing harmlessly off you, her surprise melting into laughter. She restored your men and offered feasts, rest, and comfort. A full year passed before you realized it. Time is a soft chain, you say, voice low. It slips around you while you sleep. When you left, Circe guided you to the edge of the world, to the realm of the dead. A murmur of fear ripples through the hall. The torches seem to flicker lower. You tell them how you sailed into that shadowed place, the mist thick as breath, the sea black as ink. How you dug a trench in the earth, poured blood into it, and called the shades from beneath. You describe the faces that rose, pale, whispering, reaching, and the moment you saw your mother, Anticlea. Your voice trembles, though you hide it well. I tried to hold her, you say, but she slipped through my arms like smoke. She told me my wife still waited, faithful, though grief hollowed her like the moon's dark side. She told me my son was growing tall, learning to rule. The queen's eyes glisten. A few guests lower their heads. You tell of Tiresias, the blind prophet, who warned you of Poseidon's wrath, of Helios's sacred cattle, of the danger of pride. Restrain your men, he said. Control your hunger. Control your heart. You speak of heroes you met, Achilles, restless even in death, Agamemnon, bitter about his betrayal, Ajax, still refusing to forgive you. Then you pause. The hall feels heavy, the air thick with the dead's echo. You lift your gaze, and when I return to the living world, you say quietly, I thought perhaps the gods had done with me. But the sea is never finished with a man who has seen its heart. The fire crackles. The bard leans forward, enraptured. The king gestures softly for you to rest your voice. Odysseus, he says, his tone almost reverent. You've suffered as few men ever have. Rest now. Tomorrow, tell us what came after the sea, the sirens, and the final curse of Poseidon. You nod slowly. The wine in your cup feels warm as blood, and in the silence that follows, you almost believe the worst is over. The storm doesn't break so much as simmer. Days pass in a gray half-light, the sea bruised and sullen, your men worn thin from hunger and guilt. You've escaped a Cyclops, yes, but you've also caught the eye of Poseidon, which is like winning the worst kind of lottery. Every wave now feels personal, like the god is flicking them at you just to watch you flinch. Still, you sail on. That's what you do. You've got no map, no clear direction, just a faint pull of instinct and a captain's stubbornness. When a new island appears ahead, rocky, wind-beaten, crowned with bronze towers gleaming in the sun, you take it as a sign that maybe, just maybe, the gods are letting you breathe. The air here smells sharp, metallic, charged. As you approach, the waves rise and fall in patterns too rhythmic to be natural, almost like breathing. A strange whistling cuts through the air. One of your men mutters, maybe it's the wind god's home. And for once, he's right. Aeolus, keeper of the four winds, greets you at the gate with a smile too wide to trust. He's a curious sight, half man, half storm, his hair always moving as if caught in a breeze only he can feel. His bronze hull hums softly, the air thick with invisible motion. You kneel, offer the traditional words, the weary traveler routine. Aeolus listens, nodding sagely, and then, to your surprise, laughs. You've had a rough time, haven't you? The sea's been treating you poorly. Let's fix that. He gestures to a leather bag, large enough to hold a man. It writhes faintly, as though something inside is alive. Here, he says, I've gathered every contrary wind of the world and tied them tight in this sack. Keep it sealed, and you'll have smooth sailing home. You blink. All of them. Every last one. North, south, west, angry little beasts, all of them. Don't open it unless you enjoy being thrown halfway to Tartarus. It sounds too good to be true, but you thank him, swear your loyalty, and sail off with his gift tucked carefully under your bedroll. For 9 days, everything goes perfectly. The sea is calm, the sky is soft and forgiving. The men sing again, even joke a little. Ithaca's scent feels close in the wind. You can almost taste the olive groves, hear Penelope's loom clicking in the distance. You let yourself hope. On the 10th night, exhaustion takes you. You fall asleep beside the helm, dreaming of homecoming feasts and your son's shy, grown-up face. You don't see the men whispering, glancing at the leather bag. What's inside, one asks. Treasure, obviously, says another. Why else would he hide it? Maybe it's gold, Aeolus's reward. And so, while you sleep, they untie the knot. It takes less than a heartbeat. The sky screams open. 1,000 winds burst out, shrieking and twisting like demons freed from prison. The mast snaps in two. The sails whip forward. The ship spins wildly, flung backward so fast the stars blur into streaks. The men howl in terror as waves tower over them. You wake to chaos, scrambling to grab the tiller. The bag is empty now, deflated like a cruel joke. You see Aeolus's island vanish in the distance, the last calm place you'll know for a while, before you're thrown clear across the horizon. When at last the storm fades, you find yourselves right back where you started. The same stretch of indifferent sea, the same mocking sun. It's almost funny, in the bleakest possible way. You land again on Aeolus's shore, humbled and dripping. You crawl up the bronze steps, bag in hand, and beg for another chance. Aeolus takes one look at you, sighs deeply, and shakes his head. You, again. Clearly, the gods don't like you, Odysseus. I won't go against them. He slams his gates shut. That's when you realize you're on your own again. No winds, no guidance, just a slow grind of fate. You push the ship back into the surf. The crew avoid your eyes. The silence between you is heavier than the sea. Historians still argue whether this tale of Aeolus was meant to warn against disobedience or simply to explain the whims of weather. Either way, the moral lands hard. Sometimes the gods hand you mercy, and mortals ruin it all by being, well, mortals. For days, you drift. The food spoils, tempers fray. You start to understand the slow madness of the ocean, the way it stretches time until every moment feels both eternal and fleeting. The sea doesn't hate you. It just doesn't care. That might be worse. At night, lightning flickers far off, silent and theatrical. You lie awake, counting the seconds between flashes, pretending they're signals from Athena. Maybe she's still watching. Maybe she's the only one who still believes you can make it home. One morning, you catch the faint scent of herbs and fire smoke on the wind. Land again, another island, another chance. You can almost laugh. Here we go, you mutter. Round 5 of divine mischief. You don't know it yet, but this next stop will test you in ways even storms can't. The island looks beautiful, almost gentle, a paradise draped in gold light. But paradise, as you've learned, has a sense of humor. As your ship glides toward the bay, you feel the faintest tremor underfoot, a pulse running through the waves like a heartbeat. You tell yourself it's just the current. You've been telling yourself that a lot lately. The men cheer at the sight of calm beaches and fruit trees swaying in the wind. You manage a smile. All right, you say quietly. Let's try not to anger any gods this time. The sea, ever sarcastic, slaps the hull twice in answer. You wake to the smell of salt and roasted grain, and for a moment you forget where you are. The laughter of children drifts through the morning air, and the faint hum of lyres filters in from the banquet hall. You open your eyes to a carved ceiling, the glow of oil lamps, the soft rustle of silk curtains. You're still in Scyria, the island of the Phaeacians, that strange halfway world between myth and civilization, where the sea listens, and ships move by thought alone. Outside, the sun hangs like a polished coin over the harbor. The palace gleams, all bronze and ivory, the air filled with the scent of honey and cedarwood. Servants pass, nodding, carrying baskets of figs and freshly baked bread. You rise slowly, muscles aching, and for a brief, dangerous moment, you think, maybe this is enough. Maybe home doesn't need to exist if comfort does. But then you remember Penelope, the quiet weaving, the lonely nights, the thread unspooling endlessly, and you know you can't stay. Still, before the next voyage comes, you're summoned to a final feast, one more night of stories and song. The king sits tall, his robe a shimmer of sea-green threads. Queen Arate's eyes hold that same thoughtful kindness as before, the kind that seems to see every lie before you speak it. Around the hall, nobles gather, murmuring. The bard, Demodocus, sits near the fire, harp in hand, his head tilted as if listening to something only the blind can hear. He begins to play. The strings whisper, then swell, and suddenly the air thickens with memory. He sings of Troy, of the wooden horse, of the soldiers hiding inside it, of the fall of the great city, of smoke rising like prayers that no god answers. He sings of cunning, your cunning, and of a man who tricked both enemies and friends until no one could tell which was which. You watch him silently. The words feel like ghosts circling your head. The crowd leans forward, captivated, as though hearing the story for the first time. But you lived it. You can still feel the weight of the spear in your hand, still smell the burning cedar of the city's gates. When the song ends, the hall is silent except for the crackle of the fire. The king glances at you, puzzled by the tears glimmering in your eyes. You clear your throat and speak, softly. Demodocus, you say. Your song wounds me, and heals me, both at once. You sing of a world I cannot leave behind. Then, like a tide too long held back, the rest spills out. You tell them the whole story, from the day you left Troy to the day you washed up on their shore. You speak of storms and shipwrecks, of gods who treat mortal lives like dice. You describe the sirens, those singers of doom who float on air, whose songs promise truth, but deliver only madness. You tell how you filled your men's ears with wax, How you lashed yourself to the mast to hear what no man was meant to hear. Their song was everything, you say. Every secret I'd ever chased, every regret I'd ever buried. And yet, when we passed beyond it, I felt nothing but relief. Somewhere near the fire, the bard nods faintly, as if understanding. You move on, describing Scylla and Charybdis, the twin monsters of the strait. On one side, a six-headed beast that plucks men from decks like fruit from a vine. On the other, a whirlpool that drinks ships whole. You speak of the moment you steered between them, knowing you would lose someone no matter which way you turned. You chose the side of the monster. You watched her heads dart down like snakes, watched your men vanish screaming into her cave. Historians still argue. You murmur dryly, whether I chose wisely or merely survived. But when you're the last man standing, wisdom and luck look the same. The listeners shift uncomfortably. Some look at you with awe, others with a kind of pity reserved for cursed men. You tell them about the island of Helios, the blazing pastures where sacred cattle grazed, each one a god's favorite pet. You warned your men not to touch them, reminded them that death follows disobedience. But hunger has its own logic. You describe waking to the smell of roasting meat and realizing too late what they'd done. The sky darkened. The sea went silent. And when the storm hit, it wasn't wind, it was judgment. Zeus shattered the ship. You whisper, he killed every one of them. I alone clung to a splinter of wood, drifting for days. You'd be amazed how long a man can argue with seagulls when he has no one else left. The hall exhales as one, a collective shiver. Then you tell of Calypso, the island where time stopped, where you were loved but not free. You describe her garden of whispering trees, the waterfall that sang you to sleep, the nights when she promised immortality if you'd only stay. I stayed 7 years, you say. 7 years of sunsets that meant nothing. She loved me, perhaps, but love that cages is still a prison. Queen Arate's voice breaks the silence. And yet, she says softly, you left her. You know it, because home was a word she couldn't understand. The king raises his cup. Odysseus, he says, your tale is long and your road cruel, but tonight you are safe. Rest, eat, and tomorrow our ships will bear you home. You almost laugh at that home. After everything, can any shore still feel real? But the promise warms you all the same. You stay through the feast, listening to laughter that isn't yours. The food tastes of honey and peace. The bard sings once more, this time of returning souls, and you feel your eyes grow heavy. In a quiet corner of your mind, you hear Poseidon's voice again, a low rumble beneath the waves. Not yet, wanderer. The sea hasn't finished its story. But for tonight, you ignore it. You let the hum of the lyre blur into your pulse, let the laughter fade, and sink slowly into sleep. Outside, the ships of the Phaeacians gleam under the moon, their sails furled, their oars resting in silence, waiting for dawn, and for the final voyage. The island looks like a sigh of relief. After so many storms and disappointments, you crave something, anything, that doesn't want to kill you. The beaches glint like powdered gold. The trees are lush, heavy with fruit. There's even a cool breeze, soft and sweet, carrying a smell that reminds you of honey and crushed flowers. You'd think it was a dream if not for the way your stomach growls. Your men disembark, stumbling like drunks. Salt has crusted their skin, and their eyes are hollow from hunger. They collapse under palm trees, laughing weakly, pressing sand to their faces as if it were silk. You can't help but smile. All right, you say, stretching your legs. A quick rest, then we scout. You've said those words a dozen times before, and each time, quick rest becomes near disaster. You climb a hill, scanning the island. It's bigger than it looked, rolling forests, streams flashing silver, and in the distance, smoke rising from a single elegant house perched on a slope. Civilization. Finally, maybe you think, it belongs to some friendly miner king or a priest of Apollo. You could use a decent meal and maybe some help fixing your sails. When you return to the beach, the men are already talking about exploring. Eurylochus, your second in command, has that mix of caution and curiosity that makes him both a blessing and a curse. I'll take a dozen men and check the smoke, he says. You nod. Fine. Stay polite. We can't afford more enemies. Hours later, they don't come back. You pace the sand, watching the sun sink lower. Dread coils in your chest. The sea hisses quietly, the way it always does before bad news. Finally, Eurylochus stumbles out of the forest alone, pale and shaking. She turned them into pigs. You blink. What? Pigs. Actual pigs. You stare at him, half expecting him to laugh, to admit it's some tired joke, but his hands tremble, and his eyes dart wildly toward the trees. There's a woman, he stammers. Beautiful. Lives in that house. She gave them food. Why they ate, and then... He makes a helpless gesture, as if the rest defies logic. Circe. You've heard her name before, in old sailors' gossip and temple whispers. Daughter of the sun god Helios, mistress of potions and illusions. She's said to weave reality like a spider spins silk. Historians still argue whether Circe was meant to symbolize the fear of female power or just a particularly creative cautionary tale about hospitality gone wrong. Either way, you decide someone needs rescuing. You set off through the forest, armed with your sword and the kind of stubborn courage that often doubles as stupidity. The air grows heavy, fragrant with herbs. Strange noises stir in the underbrush, snorts, rustling, a sound almost like human speech but garbled. When you reach the clearing, Circe's house gleams in the fading light. It's built from polished stone, vines curling up its columns. The front door stands open, and from within, you hear a soft humming. Inside, the room glows amber. Jars line the shelves, powders, dried roots, coiled snakes preserved in oil. And there she is, Circe herself, stirring a bronze cauldron, her hair spilling down her back like liquid sunlight. She looks up and smiles. Welcome, stranger. Her voice is calm, musical, disarming. You look weary. Sit, eat. You know better. You've learned your lesson about strange hospitality. But there's something hypnotic about her eyes. Ancient, amused, assessing. Then, just as you're about to step forward, a small rustle interrupts. A figure appears, tall, cloaked, wearing the faint shimmer of divinity. Hermes, the messenger god. He leans against a pillar, smirking. Careful, he murmurs. She has a habit of rearranging her guest's anatomy. You exhale shakily. You couldn't show up sooner? He shrugs. Wouldn't be dramatic enough. Then he tosses you a small sprig of green leaves. Eat this. Moly, the god's antidote to her tricks. She won't be able to enchant you. You slip the herb between your teeth, bitter, burning like pepper, and stride into the room. Circe lifts a cup toward you. To peace, she says. You take it, pretending to sip. Then she waves her wand. For a heartbeat, the air ripples, then fizzles out, harmless. Her eyes widen. You draw your sword. Now, you say quietly, turn them back. It's not anger she shows next, but curiosity. How, she whispers. No mortal resists me. Guess I'm not your usual guest. A tense silence follows. Then, unexpectedly, she laughs, a soft, genuine laugh. She lowers her wand. All right, clever man. You've earned my respect. She gestures, murmurs an incantation, and from the courtyard come the sounds of hooves shifting, snouts snuffling, then voices, human again, crying out in relief. The curse breaks. The men stumble in, dazed and filthy, but whole. They cling to you, thanking you like you've pulled them from the grave. Circe watches, her expression unreadable. Finally she says, You have courage. And wit. Stay a while. Rest. You'll need your strength for what comes next. You hesitate, but the thought of warm food and a soft bed wins. You stay. Days blur into weeks. Circe becomes less of a threat, more of a strange ally. Her magic hums through the air. Tapestries that change scenes when you blink. Cups that refill themselves. She talks about gods and mortals with equal amusement, as if both are just messy children playing at being powerful. One night, she traces a map into the sand, showing you where to sail next. To get home, she says, you must pass the realm of the dead. You laugh, thinking it's another riddle. She doesn't. Truly. You must go to the underworld and speak to the prophet Tiresias. Only he can tell you how to appease the gods and reach Ithaca. You stare at her, heart sinking. The underworld? She nods. Don't worry. Most don't come back. But you, well, you're Odysseus. The way she says your name, it's half admiration, half pity. You can't tell whether you're lucky or doomed. The sea greets you again before dawn. It always does, calm and glassy, as if pretending it never once tried to kill you. The Phaeacians gather at the shore, their robes fluttering like sails, their faces bright with hospitality that feels almost divine. You stand beside the king, your head bowed in gratitude, your heart suspicious of peace. They've given you gifts, fine robes, a chest of gold, even a cloak woven with threads that shimmer like fish scales. You thank them, though you suspect the sea will claim it all before long. That's how it goes with you. The king gestures toward the sleek ship waiting at the water's edge. She knows the way, he says, smiling. You won't need to steer. Sleep, and let her oars find Ithaca for you. You almost laugh. A ship that rows itself. After years of storms and starvation, it sounds like a dream you don't trust. But you board anyway. The crew sings softly as the ship slides from shore. The wind smells of olives and salt. Before you can think of fear, exhaustion takes you. Your body sinks into the smooth wooden deck. Sleep comes fast, heavy as a blessing. When you wake, it's to silence. No waves, no voices, just stillness. You open your eyes to find the ship resting on a rocky beach, its bow half buried in sand. The sun is low, its first gold spilling over cliffs and fig trees. You rise slowly, blinking. You know this place. The slope of the hills, the silver leaves of the olive groves, the faint bleat of goats somewhere inland, the smell of thyme and stone. It's Ithaca. After 20 years, the island hasn't changed. Or maybe you have, and the world stayed still despite you. For a moment you just stand there, watching the sea retreat. It looks innocent again, blue and calm, as though it never drowned a friend or devoured a dream. You almost forgive it. Then you turn and see a familiar goddess standing by the rocks. Athena. Her eyes gleam like stormlight, her smile half hidden beneath the hood of a traveler's cloak. So, she says lightly, the wanderer finally comes home. You drop to one knee before her, though your legs tremble. You could have spared me a few storms. You murmur. She tilts her head. And deprive you of character growth? You almost grin despite yourself. You gods of strange ideas of mercy. Athena's gaze softens. Poseidon still watches, but his wrath is cooling. You've earned what peace you can find. Still, don't announce yourself just yet. Your palace is full of men who think your wife is a prize to win. Her words strike like a spear. Penelope. You picture her at her loom, weaving by lamplight, the years carved into her silence. Athena gestures, and mist curls around you like breath. Let me hide you for now, she says. Walk as a beggar. Learn what's become of your home. You watch as the goddess's light shimmers, softens, fades. You look down, and see calloused hands, tattered rags, a bent shape reflected in the water. The disguise is perfect. Even you barely recognize yourself. You shoulder your pack, glance once more at the ship, already vanishing from sight, the Phaeacians' final gift, and turn inland. The path winds between olive trees, their silver leaves whispering secrets overhead. The air hums with cicadas, thick and sleepy. Every step feels half dream, half memory. You pass the same well where you once played as a boy, the same crumbling wall where your father, Laertes, planted his first vines. And yet everything feels haunted. You reach a small hut on the edge of the forest. Smoke rises from its chimney, and beside it stands a man you once knew well, your swineherd Eumaeus. He's older now, his beard streaked with gray, but his eyes are still kind, still loyal. You stay hidden a moment, watching him feed his pigs, humming softly under his breath. There's a lump in your throat you didn't expect. You step forward, pretending to limp, and call out, "Friend, might an old traveler rest by your fire?" He looks up sharply, then nods, waving you in. "Aye, old man. Food and warmth are all I have, but what I have is yours." Inside, the hut smells of wood smoke and roasted meat. The hearth glows dimly. You sit, bones aching, while Eumaeus hands you bread and wine. As you eat, he talks about the suitors who've overrun your palace, the lazy nobles who eat your flocks and drink your wine, while Penelope weaves and weeps. He doesn't know you're listening with clenched fists. She still waits, he says softly. Every night, she prays you'll return. Every morning, she weaves a shroud, and every night she unravels it to delay the suitor's demands. You force your voice steady. You think she still believes? Eumaeus sighs. A heart like hers doesn't forget, even when hope rots. You almost tell him then, almost break the goddess's command, but stop. Instead, you reach for another piece of bread and murmur, "You've served a good man well." He laughs softly, "And I'll serve him till death, God's willing." Outside, the sun dips lower, painting the hills in bronze. The pigs grunt softly, settling for the night. Eumaeus spreads a rough blanket near the hearth and gestures for you to rest. "You'll travel again tomorrow?" he asks. You nod. "Yes." You whisper, "Tomorrow I'll go home." As the fire crackles and shadows dance along the hut's walls, you close your eyes, feeling the ache of years in your bones. You've crossed oceans, fought monsters, faced gods. But somehow this quiet room, this humble kindness, feels like the hardest thing to survive. Sleep comes slow. You dream of the palace on the hill, the sound of Penelope's loom, the bow waiting in its case. And somewhere out at sea, Poseidon stirs again, muttering to himself, "Not yet, mortal. Not yet." Leaving Circe's island isn't easy. You've grown soft again, lulled by her strange hospitality. The endless feasts, the quiet mornings, the scent of herbs drifting through the warm air. For a brief spell, it almost feels like home. But every time you look out over the sea, that ache in your chest returns. You can't stay forever. Circe knows it too. She stands on the shore as you load your ship, her robes shifting in the wind like the sea itself. "Remember what I told you," she says softly. "The road ahead runs colder than death and darker than your dreams." She presses a flask into your hand, the glass shimmering faintly. "This will keep your courage from turning to dust. You'll need it." You glance at the horizon. The men are nervous. Who wouldn't be? You're about to sail to the underworld. That's not exactly on anyone's vacation list. Still you go. Because what choice do you have? Ithaca waits, somewhere, and you've come too far to turn back. As the island fades behind you, the air changes. The light drains away, replaced by a dull, metallic gray. The sea feels thicker here, as though it's resisting you. Hours pass, then days. The wind grows faint. The men whisper about omens, about shadows in the water. You tell them to keep rowing, though your own stomach knots tighter with every stroke. Finally, the current slows to nothing. Before you stretches an eerie calm. No waves, no birds, no sound but the hollow slap of oars. The horizon melts into fog. You've reached the edge of the living world. You beach the ship on a barren shore, black sand, no vegetation, no stars above. Even the air smells stale, like it's been trapped for centuries. "This is it," you murmur. "The land of shadows." The men huddle together, eyes darting. "We shouldn't be here," one whispers. "No mortal belongs here." "Then let's finish fast," you say, trying to sound braver than you feel. You remember Circe's instructions clearly. Dig a trench, pour offerings, honey, milk, wine, and water, and sprinkle barley. Then, the most important part, blood. The spirits of the dead crave it. It's what draws them to you. You make the cut yourself, the warm scent of the sacrifice spreading into the cold air. The ground seems to shiver. Then you hear it, whispering, faint at first, then swelling, overlapping voices rising from the mist. Shapes form, gray, transparent, flickering like candlelight. They drift closer, faces pale and hungry. The men stumble backward in terror. You stand your ground, though every instinct screams to run. A figure pushes through the crowd, taller, steadier than the rest. His eyes gleam faintly, as if they remember light. "Odysseus," he says. The voice is slow, echoing. You see Tiresias. It's him, the prophet who even death couldn't silence. He looks tired, as though eternity has worn him thin. The gods told me you would come. You kneel, bowing your head. I need to know how to get home. He sighs. Ah, the question every soul asks. He dips his hands into the blood, his form momentarily solidifying. Listen carefully, mortal. The path to Ithaca is cursed with temptations and fury. You must not touch the cattle of Helios, or doom will follow. You must face the sirens, and you must choose between Scylla and Charybdis. But if you keep faith and sacrifice rightly, you may yet see your home again. You swallow. May. He gives a ghostly smile. Even I can't promise more. The gods love their uncertainties. Behind him, more figures press close. You recognize some. Their faces flicker with painful familiarity. There's your mother, her eyes soft and mournful. You didn't even know she had died. Your throat tightens. You reach for her, but your hand passes through like smoke. Mother, she smiles faintly. You've suffered enough, my son. But remember, even heroes are just men who keep walking. It's almost too much. The ache of longing, the guilt, the endless distance between who you were and what you've become. You want to ask her more, about Penelope, about Telemachus. But the spirits are growing restless. Their whispers turn frantic, hungry. You back away, the world spinning with shadows. Finally, you pour another libation, whispering farewell. The mist begins to thin, the voices fading back into the earth. You stumble toward the ship, numb and shaking. The men pull you aboard without question. The oars dip once, twice, and suddenly you're back in motion, leaving the underworld behind. The sea, once dead still, now stirs again. Color seeps back into the sky. A bruised purple, dawn's faint promise. You breathe, deeply, as if waking from a nightmare. Historians still argue whether Odysseus's journey to the underworld was meant as a literal descent or a symbolic confrontation with memory and mortality. Maybe it's both. For you, it feels like standing face to face with your own story and realizing it doesn't end yet. As the sun rises weakly over the water, you glance back once more. For just a moment, you swear you see a faint figure on the horizon. Your mother, maybe, or Tiresias, raising a hand in silent warning. Then the light swallows it all. The men don't speak. You don't either. There's nothing left to say. Only forward. Always forward. By nightfall, the stars look clearer than they have in months. Maybe the worst is behind you. Maybe not. But for the first time, you feel something like direction, like the gods, however grudgingly, are letting you move again. And as the waves cradle the ship in their slow rhythm, you realize how strange it is that death has made life feel more precious. The sea hums quietly, the stars blink awake, and for a fleeting moment, you almost believe in peace. Morning comes slow, filtered through olive branches and wood smoke. You wake to the sound of pigs rooting outside, their low snorts and rustling hooves oddly comforting. The smell of roasting barley fills the hut, and for a fleeting heartbeat, you could almost believe you're just another wanderer, some tired, nameless soul resting between roads. Eumaeus moves about quietly, humming a rough shepherd's tune. When he sees you stir, he smiles the same gentle smile that used to greet you after hunts long ago. You sleep deep for an old man, he says, handing you a bowl of warm broth. You return the smile, hiding the flicker of emotion that tightens your throat. It's been a long journey, you answer. He nods. Every road in this world seems longer than it once was. You eat in silence for a while. The pigs grunt lazily in the pen, and the wind slips through cracks in the wooden walls. It smells faintly of rain. Eumaeus sits beside you. You remind me of someone, he says after a moment, his eyes distant. My master, Odysseus. You've the same stubborn jaw, though he was taller, and his words had a way of cutting through lies like a blade through rope. You hide a small smile behind your spoon. He sounds like a man worth waiting for. Eumaeus' gaze falls. He murmurs. Still is, I'd say. But gods know where he's gone. Maybe he's bones on some nameless shore by now. You don't answer. The words weigh too much. Instead, you ask about Penelope, and his tone softens again. She's clever, that one. She's fooled those greedy suitors for years now. They drink her wine and waste her food, yet she still finds ways to make fools of them. The lady's heart is steel wrapped in silk. He chuckles then, shaking his head. Every night she sits with her loom, weaving that cursed shroud for Laertes. And every morning she unravels it again. The men call her mad, but I call her wise. You glance at the hearth, its coals pulsing faintly red, and think, 20 years, and she still remembers the sound of my voice. Eumaeus leans forward. If the gods were just, he'd come home soon. Though, he adds with a wry smile, historians still argue whether justice is something the gods understand. You laugh quietly. They seem fond of irony, if not fairness. A knock breaks the moment, a sharp rap on the hut's door. Eumaeus rises and opens it, revealing a tall young man in travel-stained clothes, a spear at his side. His eyes flash bright, uncertain, restless. It's your son, Telemachus. You almost forget to breathe. He's taller than you imagined. The awkward boy of your memory hardened into something steady, though his gaze still holds the same searching fire. Athena's words echo faintly in your head. Soon, you'll see him, but not as yourself. Eumaeus embraces him like family. Telemachus, you're safe. We feared those suitors would plot your death before you reached home again. Your son smiles faintly, shaking the swineherd's shoulder. It would take more than spoiled men to end me. I came straight here to ask if my mother still holds out. She does, Eumaeus says warmly. She prays every day. The suitors grow impatient, but she's not yet bowed. Telemachus nods, then turns to you, the beggar in the corner. His eyes study you, curious, polite but distant. You bow slightly, as though ashamed of your raggedness. Who's this? He asks. A wanderer I found, Eumaeus explains. He came to me half-starved, half-dead. Seems the gods have had their sport with him. Telemachus offers a small nod. You're welcome here, old man. Food and shelter are no sin to share. His voice is steady, though young. You feel something twist inside your chest. You want to reach out, to tell him who you are, to laugh and weep all at once, but Athena's warning hums behind your ribs. Wait, the truth must arrive like dawn, slow, certain, impossible to doubt. Eumaeus busies himself with wine and bread, while Telemachus speaks of the suitors, their arrogance, their violence, their feasts paid for with your herds. You listen quietly, storing every word like kindling for the fire to come. They think my mother helpless, he says bitterly. They think me too young to stop them, but I'll not let her waste away among those wolves. You meet his gaze across the flickering fire. A wise man once said, you murmur, that wolves fall easiest when they mistake silence for weakness. He looks at you oddly, as if hearing something familiar in your tone. And what would you know of wolves, old man? You allow yourself a faint smile. Enough to know when they've been feeding too long. Eumaeus laughs. This beggar's got more sense than most kings. Telemachus grins despite himself, the tension easing. He sits, eats, listens as you share fragments of made-up travels, places you've never been, storms you never sailed. Yet every lie carries the scent of truth, and somehow he leans closer, intrigued. Outside, dusk gathers. The pigs shuffle in their pens. The wind carries the faintest whisper of the sea. Eumaeus rises to fetch more logs, leaving you and Telemachus alone. The fire flickers between you, shadows dancing like half-forgotten years. Finally you speak, voice low. You have your father's eyes. He blinks, caught off guard. You knew him. You nod. Once. Or maybe I only knew his stories. But I can tell you this. If he lives, he's closer than you think. Telemachus studies you for a moment, as though trying to see through the disguise. Then he looks away, smiling faintly. I hope you're right. And for a heartbeat, one quiet, trembling heartbeat, you almost tell him. You almost break the spell. But before you can, the door opens again, and Eumaeus returns. Best rest now, the swineherd says. Tomorrow, we'll plan our way to the palace. The gods willing, the days of the suitors are numbered. Telemachus nods, lying down beside the hearth. You do the same. though sleep feels far away. You lie awake long into the night, watching the glow of the embers fade to ash, thinking of bows unstrung and vengeance ripening like fruit. Tomorrow, father and son will walk together into your own home, one unaware, one disguised, both guided by gods who still haven't decided whether they pity you or simply enjoy the show. The sea is calm for once, almost suspiciously calm. You've left behind a land of shadows, but the silence still clings to you. The men row without speaking, their faces pale, eyes hollow. No one dares joke or sing. It's as if death's echo still follows you across the waves. Then, faintly, you hear something new. Singing. At first, you think you're imagining it. The notes are so soft, so pure, that they might just be the wind teasing the rigging. But then the sound grows, sweet and sharp, threading through the air like silk. The melody is beautiful beyond reason, and something in it tugs at your bones. The sirens. Circe warned you about them before you left. Their song promises everything you've ever wanted, she'd said, her voice low and serious. Knowledge, love, home, whatever your heart aches for. But if you listen, you'll never leave their shore. You'll starve to death while smiling. You glance at the men. They've heard it too. Their strokes have slowed, their eyes glassy. One of them whispers, "It's so beautiful." You snap out of your haze. No one listens. You shout it like a battle order. Stop your ears with wax now. You pull a chunk of beeswax from a pouch Circe gave you and begin softening it in your hands, the heat of the sun turning it pliable. One by one, you shove it into your men's ears, ignoring their confusion. Don't remove it until I say. Eurylochus raises an eyebrow. And you, Captain? You smile grimly. Tie me to the mast. What? Tie me tight. Hands, feet, waist. If I beg you to untie me, you tighten it more. He hesitates. You've lost your mind. Maybe, you say. But I want to hear the truth, not just the silence. They bind you fast. Rope bites into your wrists as the ship glides forward, the song growing louder. You can almost see it now, a shimmer on the horizon, a brightness that isn't sunlight. The sirens appear on their island, figures of impossible grace, perched on rocks gleaming with salt and bone. They're not monstrous, not in the way stories claim. They look almost human, faces serene, wings folded behind them, hair catching the wind like spun gold. Their lips part, and the song pours out. It's everything. Every hope you've buried, every longing you've ignored. You hear your name in it, soft, loving. Odysseus, they call. Come to us. You've suffered enough. Rest here. We know all that the world has ever known of Troy, of the gods, of what waits for you in Ithaca. You thrash against the ropes, desperate to move closer. Untie me, you roar. I must go to them. The men don't hear. They row on, faces blank, oblivious. You scream, plead, threaten, but they keep their eyes on the oars, steady as machines. The island draws nearer. The water shimmers with light, and you catch glimpses of what lies below, bones, dozens of them, pale and gleaming beneath the surface. It should horrify you, but in that moment, you don't care. You just want to hear more. The music feels like truth, like home. Then, suddenly, the ship lurches forward. The song fades. The wind picks up, tugging you away from the island. You scream again, but the sound dies in your throat. The siren smiles turn wistful, almost pitying, as they vanish into the distance. When you finally come back to yourself, drenched in sweat, the men are staring. You good, Captain? Eurylochus asks dryly. You let out a shaky laugh. Define good. You cut the ropes, flexing your sore wrists. They almost had me, you admit quietly. They show you exactly what you want most, and then they drown you in it. Historians still argue what the sirens represented. Some say they were metaphors for temptation, the desire to linger in comfort instead of pushing forward. Others claim they were a test of knowledge, a reminder that curiosity can destroy as easily as it enlightens. Either way, you've survived another myth that was never meant to be survived. The men remove the wax from their ears, blinking, dazed. We didn't hear anything. One mutters. Just the wind. Good, you say. Keep it that way. For a while, the silence that follows feels almost sacred. You can still hear faint echoes of the song in your head, whispering from somewhere deep beneath the waves. But they fade slowly, like a dream you're not supposed to remember. The sea stretches on, endless and calm. You almost think you've earned a bit of peace. Then Circe's prophecy comes back to you, Scylla and Charybdis. You glance at the horizon, where dark shapes rise like the teeth of the world. One side, jagged cliffs, black and cruel. The other, a vast whirlpool, spinning lazily, the water vanishing into its endless throat. Between them lies a narrow passage, just wide enough for your ship. You sigh. Of course, you mutter. It couldn't just be easy. The men stare in horror. Which side do we take? One asks. You remember Circe's words clearly. Sail close to Scylla. Lose a few men, not all. You grip the tiller. Left, you say quietly. We'll take our chances with a monster. The whirlpool gurgles like laughter. The cliffs loom ahead, and somewhere above them, hidden by mist, you can hear a low growl echo through the stone. The siren's song is gone, but something far worse is waiting to take its place. Dawn breaks over Ithaca like a whisper. The air is pale and cool, and the hills glow with the faintest brush of gold. You, Telemachus, and Eumaeus rise before the sun has fully lifted, the sound of pigs stirring behind you and the smell of dew-damp earth in your nose. There's no ceremony to this morning, no fanfare, just quiet determination and a shared sense that something is shifting, finally, after years of delay. Telemachus shoulders his spear, his jaw set with that new, sharp confidence of youth that both humbles and stings you. You walk beside him, leaning on a crooked staff, your disguise clinging tight as fog. Eumaeus follows behind, loyal as ever, glancing from you to the road ahead with quiet suspicion that something larger than mortals is at work. The path winds down from the hills, through olive groves that shimmer silver in the morning light. You pass fields that were once yours, vines bent under the weight of fruit, terraces where you once taught farmhands how to prune the trees just so. Now they're neglected, the weeds winning small victories everywhere. You feel a low, steady ache in your chest, a sadness too deep for words. This was your kingdom, small, stubborn, and alive, and in your absence it has gone half-feral. As you near the city, Athena appears briefly on the road ahead, disguised as a tall woman with gray eyes and a traveler's cloak. She doesn't stop you, but she nods, her lips curving faintly. It's time, she murmurs, voice almost lost to the wind. The boy will know you soon. Be wise when the truth comes. Then she's gone, like breath on glass. Telemachus doesn't notice. He's already planning aloud. How they'll confront the suitors. How to protect his mother. How to rally what few loyal men remain. His passion fills the space between steps, earnest and wild. You let him talk. It's strange hearing his plans for vengeance, when you're the one who taught him nothing of war, nothing of patience, nothing at all beyond the memory of your name. When the palace finally appears, it's both familiar and foreign, a large, sun-washed structure of marble and timber, perched above the harbor. The sound of laughter drifts out, coarse and careless. The suitors are already feasting. You and Eumaeus wait outside while Telemachus goes in first. You watch him from the shadows as servants rush to greet him, some with joy, some with fear. The suitors clap him on the shoulder with mock respect, their smiles sharp and empty. Inside, the smell of roasted meat and spilled wine fills the air. Plates clatter, harps play, and Penelope's hall, once a place of quiet grace, has become a marketplace of arrogance. When Telemachus gestures for Eumaeus to bring the beggar inside, you take a slow breath. This is it. The suitors barely glance your way at first. A ragged old man isn't worth attention. You move carefully, each limp calculated, each bowed gesture deliberate. You take a seat near the hearth where the servants won't trip over you. And then you see her, Penelope. She stands at the far end of the hall, her hair threaded with silver, her bearing still queenly despite the ruin around her. Her face is tired but beautiful in the quiet, unshowy way of someone who has carried too much and broken too little. She looks like someone who's forgotten how to hope, and yet can't stop hoping. Your breath catches. For a long moment you simply look, the years collapsing inward. Every storm, every curse, every sleepless night, all of it was for this glimpse of her. But she doesn't see you, not yet. Then Antinous, the loudest and most insolent of the suitors, sneers from across the room. What's this now? Another beggar come to eat our food? Must we feed every rat in Ithaca? You lower your eyes, saying nothing. He laughs. Perhaps he can dance for us, if his legs haven't rotted. Telemachus's hand tightens around his cup, but he doesn't speak. He's learned patience too, it seems. You let the insult hang, calm and unmoved. You faced monsters who belched smoke, and gods who crushed men for sport. A spoiled boy with wine on his lips can't touch you. Finally, Penelope speaks, her voice low but clear. A queen's hall is not a kennel for cruelty, she says. Feed him. The gods punish those who mock the helpless. Her tone stills the laughter. Bread and meat are brought to you, and you bow your head in gratitude. The food tastes of home, rough bread, salted goat, olive oil sharp on your tongue. It's a simple thing, but it breaks something open inside you. As the day fades, servants clear the tables. The suitors drift into drunken boasting. Who will win Penelope's hand? Who will string your bow once she brings it forth for the contest? You listen, silent, every word another stone in your growing resolve. Later, when the suitors stagger to bed, Penelope sends for you. Eumaeus leads you to her chamber, where the fire burns low and the air smells faintly of lavender and wool. She studies you for a long while. Old man, she says gently, you seem a man who's seen much and lost more. Tell me, have you heard anything of Odysseus? Anything at all? You meet her eyes and see the weariness behind them, the same exhaustion you've carried. You choose your words carefully. I have heard, you say softly, that he still lives, that he wanders far, but his heart is ever turned toward Ithaca. Her hand trembles slightly. So they've said before. You lean forward, and yet hope, my lady, has never been wrong about him. For a moment, she seems to believe. Then she looks away, whispering, if only the gods would grant one true sign. You bow low, your disguise holding like a mask of shadow. Perhaps they will, you say. Perhaps they already have. When you leave her room, the palace corridors feel colder. The moonlight spills across the floor like water, pale and silent. Somewhere below, the suitors snore and dream of victory. You stand at the top of the stairs, staring into the dark, and for the first time in years, you feel something steady inside you. A calm sharper than fury, deeper than fear. The end of the journey isn't across the sea anymore. It's right here, waiting behind your own doors. The sea narrows like a throat. The cliffs close in, steep and glistening with spray, and the wind changes tone, no longer gentle, but sharp and warning. You can smell something sour in the air, like blood washed clean too many times. This is it. Scylla on one side, Charybdis on the other. Circe's voice echoes in your head, calm and absolute. Hug the cliff, keep your eyes forward, and don't fight fate. You hate every word of it. Charybdis comes first. You see her only in glimpses, a whirlpool vast enough to swallow the sky, spinning slow, deliberate circles. Every few minutes she roars, inhaling seawater like a monstrous breath, dragging the waves downward into darkness. Even from a distance, you can feel her pull, the ship trembling with each surge. Row steady, you shout. Don't look at it. But it's impossible not to. The whirlpool mesmerizes, its power hypnotic, terrible. You understand suddenly how sailors vanish without a trace. One moment upright, the next a scrap of wood spinning in the abyss. Historians still argue whether Charybdis was meant to represent an actual whirlpool in the Strait of Messina or a symbolic fear of nature's indifference. You don't have time to philosophize. You just need to survive. You steer closer to the cliffs, so close the rock scrapes the oars. The spray blinds you. The air hums with tension, like the moment before lightning strikes. The men row hard, muttering prayers to gods who probably aren't listening. Then the growl comes. It's not the wind. It's deeper, wet, guttural, alive. You look up, and there she is. Scylla. 6 heads, each with snapping jaws. each crowned with rows of glistening teeth. Her long, snake-like neck stretched from the cavern in the cliffside, twisting and tasting the air. Her body, what little you can see, is buried deep in the rock, like a parasite fused to the mountain. Her eyes flash pale green as she sniffs the salt and fear on the air. You grip your sword, though it's laughable. What good is bronze against a monster older than gods? Row faster, you bark. Don't stop. Whatever happens, don't stop. The men obey, panic sharpening their strokes. The ship surges forward, but you can feel it coming. Inevitable, precise. With a sound like wet thunder, Scylla strikes. Her heads dart down in a blur. You see one man lifted screaming into the air, another snatched from the stern before he even turns around. The sight is so fast, so violent, that your mind can't process it. It's just motion, teeth, blood, and the echo of terror. You shout, slash upward, hit nothing but mist. A spray of crimson hits your arm. Then it's over. 6 gone. Just like that. The sea roils beneath you. Charybdis belches a massive wave that slams the ship sideways, nearly capsizing it. For a moment, you think the gods might take you all anyway, but somehow, miraculously, the vessel rights itself. The survivors row like madmen, eyes fixed ahead, not daring to look back. You don't speak for a long time. The cliffs fade behind you, swallowed by fog. The only sound is the creak of wood and the low moaning of exhausted men. Eventually, you sheath your sword and stare into the dark horizon. They didn't even scream. You say quietly. Eurylochus stares straight ahead. They didn't have time. He's right. That's the cruelty of it. Death here isn't dramatic. It's fast, practical, impersonal. You realize that monsters don't hate you. They just eat what crosses their path. It's the same lesson you've learned a dozen times, in a dozen forms. The universe isn't cruel. It's just not sentimental. For the rest of that day, no one moves except to row. No one eats. No one prays. The silence becomes a kind of mourning. That night, the stars appear again, sharp and endless, and you find yourself whispering to them. Not prayers, exactly, but questions. How much farther? How much more? The stars, as usual, offer no reply. By morning, the air has turned heavy and warm, and the smell of grass drifts from somewhere nearby. Another island rises ahead, this one soft and green, dotted with low hills and golden fields. The men murmur in relief. Food, someone says. Fresh land. You should stop them. You should remember Tiresias's warning. Do not touch the cattle of Helios. But you're tired, so tired, and the sight of calm pastures after so much horror feels like a gift. You convince yourself you'll rest only a little, gather supplies, maybe fix the sails. Then you'll move on. The island glows under the sun. Streams sparkle. The grass sways gently, dotted with white cattle that look almost divine. Their hides shine like polished marble. Their eyes, strange, golden, intelligent, watch you with mild curiosity. The men stare hungrily. Just one whispers. The gods won't notice one. You glare. No one touches them. Not one hoof, not one hair. They nod. They promise. But you know how men are when hunger starts whispering. You can already see it, the calculation in their faces, the half-hope that maybe you're wrong, maybe one meal won't damn them all. You set camp by the shore, apart from the herds, and try to sleep. The waves murmur softly, but the air feels wrong, too still, like the world is holding its breath. You dream of fire, of the sun itself turning its face toward you, furious and blinding. When you wake, the smell hits you first, roasted meat. You sit up slowly. The men are gathered around a fire, their hands trembling as they chew. Grease shines on their lips. What have you done? You whisper. Eurylochus meets your eyes. We were starving, Captain. What kind of god lets men die for food in front of them? You can't even answer. The flames crackle, and above you, thunder growls, a sound not from clouds, but from the heavens themselves. The sun burns brighter, harsher, as if glaring straight down. The sea, which had been calm, begins to darken. You know instantly what's coming. Back to the ship, you shout. Now, but it's too late. The palace sleeps under a pale moon. But you, Odysseus, are wide awake. The night is thick and quiet, the kind that presses close against your skin and makes every thought louder. You lie in the shadows of the hall, your disguise still in place, your mind pacing faster than your feet ever could. Somewhere down the corridor, you can hear the rhythmic breathing of the suitors, men who eat your food, wear your robes, and dream of your wife. You take a slow breath and look toward the hearth where your old hunting dog, Argos, used to rest. You wonder if he's still alive, and the thought twists your heart. You'll find out soon enough. A soft shuffle breaks the silence. Eumaeus moves through the corridor, whispering your name. Telemachus follows behind, his face solemn in the flickering torchlight. They close the doors and gather near you, voices low and tense. Telemachus speaks first, his tone sharpened by resolve. It's time, father. They think they own this place. Tomorrow, mother will bring out your bow. You know what comes after. You nod. The test will reveal everything. Stay steady when it begins. He frowns. There are over 100 of them. How can 3 men, and a goddess in disguise, defeat that many? You smile faintly, the corner of your mouth twitching with the old confidence you used to wear like armor. You've forgotten what your father was called. The trickster of Troy. The man who made kings kneel with a wooden horse. Eumaeus grins, his teeth flashing in the dark. And pigs can be fierce when cornered. It's enough to make you all chuckle, quietly, tightly. The tension doesn't break, but it softens. As the plan takes shape, the night thickens around you. You tell them to hide the palace's weapons, to lock the women's quarters, to leave only the great bow of Odysseus and a few arrows where the suitors can see them. The rest will be hidden behind the storeroom doors. Tomorrow, you murmur, justice will walk these halls. Before dawn, you slip outside for a moment of stillness. The courtyard smells of olives and stone dust. That's when you see him, Argos. The dog lies on a pile of discarded hay, blind in one eye, his fur patchy and gray. His body trembles as he hears your step. You stop, throat tightening. Argos, you whisper. His tail thumps weakly against the ground. He knows your voice. He's waited all these years for it. You kneel beside him, stroke the coarse fur, and for the first time since you left Ithaca, you cry. Just a little, silently. Argos sighs once, long and deep, and then stills. His watch is done. You sit there for a while, your hand resting on his side, before standing and whispering to the dawn. Good dog. By the time the sun rises, the palace is alive with noise. The suitors swagger in, loud and hungover, calling for breakfast and wine. Penelope appears, serene as ever, her hands folded, her gaze unreadable. My lords, she announces, you have consumed this house long enough. Today we will see who among you is worthy. I will marry the man who can string my husband's bow and shoot an arrow clean through 12 axe heads. The hall buzzes. The bow of Odysseus is no ordinary weapon. Its draw is as heavy as a god's favor, and most men can't even bend it. The first suitor steps up. He's young, arrogant, muscles shining in the morning light. He lifts the bow, and it doesn't move. The string hums like laughter against his fingers. He tries again, face red with effort. Nothing. The others mock him, until they try and fail too. One by one, they grunt and curse, sweat pooling on the floor. Antinous laughs the loudest, but his turn comes and goes with the same humiliation. You sit in the corner, watching, eyes half-lidded like a man who's half asleep. But your heart is awake, every pulse a drumbeat closer to revelation. Finally, when the suitors are weary and Penelope turns away, you rise slowly, leaning on your stick. Perhaps, you say, your voice rasping like gravel, you'll let an old beggar test his luck, just for sport. The room erupts in laughter. Antinous sneers. You couldn't lift the string, old man. You'll snap your back before the bow bends. But Telemachus, playing his part, smiles easily. Let him try. The bow's not sacred to any of you, unless you're afraid a beggar will shame you. The challenge cuts deep. The suitors exchange looks, unwilling to admit fear. Reluctantly, they agree. Penelope nods once. Let him try. if only to remind you that strength is not always in youth. Eumaeus brings the bow to you. Your hands tremble, not from age, but from the effort of holding back. You run your fingers along the wood, feeling the familiar smoothness, the memory of your own skill carved into its curve. You take a breath, bend your knee, and in one smooth motion, string the bow. The hall goes silent. Even the air seems to stop. The string hums, pure and deadly. You choose an arrow, nock it, and draw. The power sings through your arms, through your chest, through every scar you've earned. 12 axe heads stand in a perfect line. The arrow flies. It cuts the air with a whisper and lands with a clean, satisfying thunk, straight through all 12. A ripple of disbelief runs through the room. The laughter dies. Then, in the quiet that follows, you say the first true words your house has heard in 20 years. Now, the time has come to pay your debts. You turn, knock another arrow, and shoot Antinous square in the throat before his smile can curdle into fear. Chaos erupts. Cups crash. Tables overturn. The suitors scramble for weapons, but the racks are empty. Eumaeus and Telemachus take their places at your side. The three of you stand firm, the bow singing in your hands. Arrows fly like justice reborn. One by one the suitors fall. Each strike measured, clean, inevitable. It's over faster than you expect. The hall that once rang with mockery now echoes with silence. The torches flicker in the smoky air, and you lower the bow. You look at Telemachus. His face is pale, but his eyes are steady. You fought like a son of Ithaca. You tell him. He nods, unable to speak. When Penelope enters moments later, her face a mask of disbelief, you feel the weight of everything, the years, the battles, the longing. But she doesn't rush to you. She studies you with calm, careful eyes. If you are truly my husband, she says quietly, then tell me something only he would know. You smile, tired and tender. Our bed, you whisper, is built around the trunk of an olive tree. No man could move it. Her face breaks. The mask falls. And then she's in your arms, both of you trembling under the fading light. You run toward the ship, shouting orders that are already drowned by the wind. The sky has changed, no clouds, just a heavy, golden light that feels angry. The air itself seems to thrum with judgment. The men stagger behind you, clutching their packs, their half-eaten meat, their disbelief. They're sailors, yes, but now they move like condemned men. The ship rocks violently before you even reach it. The sea is no longer blue, but the color of molten bronze, the reflection of an enraged sun. The air is dry, hot, burning your throat as you shout. Push off. Hurry. You leap aboard just as a wave surges over the shore. It's not water, it's liquid light, searing as it touches skin. The timbers groan. Oarsmen row desperately, but every stroke feels heavier than the last. You don't need the gods to speak. You can feel Helios's fury in the air. Circe's warning comes back to you word for word. If you touch the cattle of the sun, destruction shall come swiftly. And swiftly it comes. A wind bursts from nowhere, neither north nor south, but from everywhere at once. The mast splinters like a bone. The sail rips into the air. The sea convulses, boiling with white foam. Lightning cuts across the sky, though there are no clouds. The men scream prayers to Poseidon, to Zeus, to anyone listening. You clutch the tiller, knowing it's pointless. One by one, they're thrown into the waves. You can't save them. Each time you reach, another body vanishes. The sea smells of salt and smoke, and something sharp, burning fat maybe. Helios's vengeance is absolute. Then a bolt of light splits the ship in two. You don't remember falling. Only the sound, the groan of wood, the hiss of steam, the roar of the storm swallowing itself. When you open your eyes again, the sky is strangely calm. The sea glitters softly, deceptively peaceful. You're floating on a single plank of wood. The ship is gone. Everyone is gone. You are alone. You cling to the beam, coughing seawater, watching the horizon spin. The sun is merciless, yet the waves cradle you, moving with the rhythm of some ancient lullaby. Hours blur into a dull shimmer of sky and water. At some point, you stop trying to tell one from the other. You think of home, Not Ithaca exactly, but the idea of it. The smell of olive trees, Penelope's quiet smile, Telemachus running through the courtyard, chasing a hoop. These memories are softer than any dream, and you begin to suspect they might never have existed at all. The sea drifts you wherever it pleases. Sometimes it's gentle. Sometimes it slaps you awake with spray. You don't fight it. Fighting has lost meaning. After what might be 2 days, or 10, you see something ahead. A low shape rising from the sea. A cliff, dark and strange. You blink against the glare. The air feels wrong again, not angry this time, but hollow. The wind carries a distant echo, like singing. You drift closer. The cliff sharpens into an island, black rock, slick as glass, ringed with mist. The singing grows clearer, almost beautiful, but something in it makes your stomach twist. You've heard too many enchanted songs to mistake the tone. You paddle weakly with your hands, steering the plank toward shore. The waves grow calmer the nearer you come. The singing fades. By the time you reach a narrow ledge and drag yourself onto it, the island is silent except for dripping water. You collapse on the stones, your hands raw, your lips split from salt. Hours pass before you rise. You climb inland, following a faint trail. The air here feels heavy, almost reluctant to move. The cliffs arch overhead like a ceiling, shutting out the light. You come to a cave, the entrance smooth, unnaturally shaped. From inside comes the soft sound of waves slapping against stone. You peer in. The cave opens into a hollow lit by its own strange glow. The walls pulse faintly, like the inside of a shell catching hidden light. The air smells of salt and memory. You can see the bones of ships along the edges, worn smooth by time. Oars, ropes, fragments of hulls. Then you see her, a figure sitting at the far end, her skin pale as moonlight, her hair dark as the deep. She looks at you with eyes that seem older than the sea itself. "Odysseus," she says softly, "so the gods have thrown you here at last." You stare, half believing she's another vision, another trick. "Who are you?" "I am Calypso," she replies, "daughter of Atlas, keeper of this island, which men call Ogygia." Her voice is gentle but carries something beneath it, a weariness, a sadness so deep it hums in your bones. She stands, steps closer, and the air itself seems to warm. "You have suffered long," she murmurs. "Rest here. No storms, no hunger, no death. I can make it so." You shake your head, though every part of you wants to fall to the floor and never move again. "I can't stay. I have a home." Her eyes flicker. "Do you? After all this time, do you know if it still exists?" The question strikes like an arrow. You open your mouth, but say nothing. You don't know. Calypso gestures to a pool of clear water, its surface perfectly still. "Drink. Sleep. Tomorrow we'll speak again." You do as she says. The water cools your throat, and the world blurs at the edges. When you lie down, the rock feels soft beneath you, like sand shaped by a kind hand. You sleep, and for the first time in years, you don't dream of storms. When you wake, it's daylight, and she's there beside you, silent, watching. You realize days, or months, might have passed while you drifted in this strange calm. The island is timeless, and time itself seems to circle you like a lazy wave. Each day repeats softly, meals of sweet fruit, the sound of surf, Calypso's quiet presence beside you. She speaks of the world beyond, of gods and their rivalries, of the way mortals struggle for meaning while eternity drifts on uncaring. Her words are kind, but her eyes are lonely. And slowly, despite yourself, you begin to feel at peace. You forget the journey, the hunger, the cries of the men lost to Scylla and Helios. You forget the shape of Ithaca's shore. You begin to believe that maybe this quiet, eternal rest is what you were meant to find all along, until the gods remember you again. The hall smells of smoke and olive oil, blood faint beneath the scent of hearth fire. The arrows are still scattered on the floor, feathers catching the dim light, but the worst of the violence has passed. What's left now is silence, the thick, uncanny quiet that always follows storms. You stand in it with Penelope, the air between you alive with disbelief. Her hands still shake where they rest on your arms, as if she expects you to vanish again, to dissolve into some trick of the gods. But you don't. You stay right there, solid and weary and home. Telemachus hovers nearby, unsure whether to smile or fall to his knees. He's seen you slay a hall full of men, then weep like a child when your wife believed you. It's a lot for any son to take in. Penelope studies your face again, fingertips tracing the scar on your leg, the one from that wild boar on Mount Parnassus. Her voice wavers between wonder and accusation. After all these years, you give a half-smile. I took the scenic route. She laughs, really laughs, for the first time in 20 years. The sound is thin but bright, like sunlight after rain. But even laughter can't erase the practical questions. What will the people say when they find this? She asks, glancing at the bodies. You sigh. They'll say justice finally woke up. Then softer. But I'll speak with them. Athena will see to it. And indeed, as if summoned, the gray-eyed goddess appears at the far end of the hall. Not in glory this time, but quietly, like a reflection caught in a ripple. It's done, she says. Odysseus, your trials are complete. Peace must now return to Ithaca, or the gods will grow bored again. Historians still argue. You murmur dryly, whether gods are ever content for long. Athena's smile flickers. Then make them content by living, not wandering. Even heroes must rest. She's gone before you can reply, leaving only a faint smell of sea air in the room. By morning, word has spread through Ithaca. People gather outside the palace, farmers, servants, old soldiers, curious children. Some fear revenge, others whisper that the king has returned from the dead. You step out with Telemachus and Penelope at your side. The crowd stills, hundreds of eyes turning toward you. For a moment, no one speaks. Then an old woman drops to her knees. It's him, she cries. It's truly our king. A cheer rises, hesitant at first, then swelling like surf against rock. And just like that, the island begins to breathe again. You walk through the streets, greeting people by name, those who still remember you, those who thought you a ghost. You notice small things, the cracks in the walls, the vines overtaking doorways, the way laughter feels strange and fragile in the air. Later, you visit your father, old Laertes, who lives quietly on the edge of the orchards. He doesn't believe his eyes at first. When he touches your face, his hands tremble as though afraid of breaking you. You talk for hours beneath the trees, the same ones you once planted as a boy. The olives shimmer overhead, patient witnesses to your entire life. He asks if the wars were worth it. You don't have an easy answer. Maybe not, you admit, but they're finished now. Days pass. The palace is scrubbed clean, the halls aired out, and Penelope's weaving room fills again with the sound of her shuttle moving rhythmically across the loom. Telemachus helps rebuild the armory. The suitors' families grieve, but Athena's hand softens their hearts, and no rebellion comes. Still, at night, you sometimes wander the terrace, staring out over the dark sea. It gleams silver beneath the moon, vast and unknowable as ever. The sound of the waves is both lullaby and warning. You think of the friends you lost, Achilles, Ajax, Patroclus, of Calypso, who offered eternity and couldn't understand why you refused, of Circe, whose spells almost made you forget who you were, and of the countless nameless sailors whose bones sleep in that deep blue grave. History books might say the war at Troy was the peak of your legend, but standing here, watching the tide slide in and out, you realize this quiet domestic return, is the hardest part. Not surviving monsters or gods, but surviving peace. You reach down, pick up a smooth stone, and skip it across the water. It hops once, twice, then sinks. You smile faintly. Even heroes need practice. Behind you, the palace windows glow with firelight. Penelope is waiting inside. You can hear her voice, soft and steady, humming some half-forgotten song. You turn toward it, the scent of bread and olive oil drifting through the night, and for the first time in decades, the sound of home doesn't ache. It comforts. You wake one morning to find the air changed. It feels thinner, trembling, as if the whole island has taken a deep, nervous breath. The surf still rolls softly, the same eternal rhythm, but something beneath it has shifted. like a whisper under the sound of waves. Calypso stands at the water's edge, her back to you, her hair dark against the silver dawn. She doesn't move when you approach. "You feel it, don't you?" she says, without turning. You nod, though you're not sure what you feel. Maybe it's just the faintest hint of restlessness, the first ripple in a long, still dream. "Someone has spoken your name," she murmurs. Across the sea, the gods are stirring again. You almost laugh, dryly, quietly. They never leave well enough alone. She turns then, her expression unreadable. Perhaps they're not finished with you. Perhaps they can't stand to see you at peace. Peace. The word catches. For months, maybe years, you've known nothing but the soft repetition of this place. Fruit and sunlight, her quiet company, the hush of the sea at night. You've forgotten the feel of hunger, of fear, even of ambition. You've been suspended in a slow, beautiful nothing. But now, at the edges of your thoughts, something stirs, a vague ache, like homesickness that doesn't know its name. Later that day, Calypso calls you to the cave. She's seated by the pool again, staring into its mirror-like surface. "There was a council," she says, her voice low. "Zeus himself presided. Athena argued for you." You blink. Athena. After all this time. Calypso smiles faintly. She hasn't forgotten her favorite mortal. "You're lucky, you know. The other gods would have left you to rot here, or perhaps they already had." "Then what now?" you ask. She sighs, tracing a finger over the water's surface. The reflection ripples, showing flashes of light, sky, winged sandals. "They're sending a messenger. He'll come soon. Hermes, probably. He always gets the unpleasant errands." You try to thank her, though it feels strange. She waves you off. "Don't. I don't obey them gladly. They order, I listen, the sea sighs." That's the cycle. The next morning, you see him, Hermes, the trickster in golden light, walking effortlessly across the sea, like it's polished marble. He doesn't even bother landing properly, just glides to the shore and stands with the kind of casual grace only immortals can manage. "Calypso," he calls, cheerful as always. The Olympians send their regards, and a little complaint about your habit of keeping heroes. She appears from the shadows, her tone cool. "I keep what the sea delivers." Hermes grins, twirling his staff. "Zeus says otherwise. Orders are orders. Odysseus is to go home. At once." You stay silent, watching them argue like actors in a play you've seen before. The god and the nymph, duty and defiance. Calypso's words are sharp, but Hermes only shrugs. "You know how it is," he says at last. "Can't have mortals sitting out eternity." Throws off the balance. When he leaves, it's as if the light itself follows him away. Calypso stands still for a long time, staring at the horizon. Then she says softly, "They always take, never ask." You want to apologize, though it's not your fault. You say, "I didn't ask them to send you to me." She turns to you, eyes bright with something fierce and fragile. "No," she says, "but you didn't ask to leave either, and yet you will." That night, she prepares a small feast. Fruits, bread, wine sweeter than anything mortal hands could press. You sit together in silence. Every sound, the crackle of the fire, the roll of the tide, feels stretched thin with meaning. Finally she speaks. "I could make you immortal, you know. I could give you endless days. No pain, no storms, no death. You'd never grow old, never see the world crumble around you." Her gaze meets yours, steady and sad. "Would you really trade that for one mortal home?" You hesitate. You think of Ithaca, its craggy cliffs, the smell of olive wood burning, Penelope's face half-faded in your mind. You think of Telemachus, perhaps grown taller now, perhaps hardened by absence. You think of the gods, laughing at your small defiance. And somehow, despite all logic, the answer feels simple. "Yes." You whisper, "I would." She closes her eyes. When she opens them again, the light inside them has dimmed, but her voice is soft. "Then I'll help you." The next morning, she takes you to the shore. The waves lap quietly, as if paying respect. Calypso gestures toward a clearing where the trees seem to have bent toward her will. You'll build your raft from these, she says. I'll give you tools, food, cloth for your sail. You'll have a fair wind for a while. You work for days, stripping branches, shaping beams, tying lashings with vines that glisten like silk. Calypso helps without speaking much. Sometimes she hums a low tune, ancient and bittersweet. You think it's the kind of song that could make even the stars remember they're burning. When the raft is done, it looks fragile, laughable even, but it's all you have. You stand beside it, the sea stretching endless and indifferent before you. Calypso places her hand on your arm. I won't curse you, she says. That's more mercy than most men get from gods. I know, you say quietly. She smiles barely. Remember this place kindly, even if it fades. You nod. She steps back. The wind stirs, gentle but sure, pushing you toward the water. You wade in, guiding the raft until it begins to float. Then you climb aboard. Calypso stands on the shore, small against the vastness. The morning sun wraps her in gold. You think you see her lips move. Maybe a blessing, maybe a goodbye. As the distance grows, the island shrinks to a speck of green. You feel the ache of it deep in your chest, that impossible combination of freedom and loss. The wind fills your sail, the sea sighs beneath you, and for the first time in a long time, you are moving again, not drifting, but going somewhere. You look back one last time. The island is gone, swallowed by mist. You whisper, though there's no one to hear. Thank you. The sea answers with silence.